king's Indian defense is the most aggressive and defensive opening you can play with black, and it starts by g4, knight f6, and after c4 here as black you just play g6. And ladies and gentlemen, you've entered into the king's Indian defense, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to get your king to safety, the middle game of the king's Indian defense, and how to attack white king, which is the whole objective of this opening. So let's get right to it. In this position, the most common move for white is knight to c3, and here you just play bishop to g7, and after e4 do not castle immediately because e5 is a very disturbing move. So instead just play the move d6, and here if white tries to come forward, then white is already losing because you're just going to take his pawn, and after it takes back, then you're just going to trade off the queens, and you're going to play the move knight to g4, and you're absolutely winning. These 2 pawns are in danger, and there's a fork here, which means that obviously white is going to play bishop here trying to protect, or knight here, then you're just going to grab your free pawn on the center. So your opponent obviously isn't that dumb. So after d6, your opponent will play the move knight to f3. Then you finally castle, completing the first objective, which is getting the king to safety. But you're just asking me, what if my opponent plays e4? Do not play knight to f6, it's a completely blunderous move. Instead, play the move g6, and after that, then you can finally develop and get into a similar position. So here, now you're already in a position where you can castle, so which means that you can get your king to safety. But you're just saying, wait a second, PrezChess, wait a second. What if after I play d6 here, what if my opponent plays f4? Then don't just mind it, castle. So we've now completed our first objective, which is castling, getting our king into this nice fortress. So now time to go to the middle game. So in the middle game, here in this position, under the 4 pawns attack, here white can try a devious move like attacking the knight here. So what do you play here as black? You just bring back your knight, and after that you strike in the center. Why strike in the center? If white takes any of your pawns, if it takes there, you just take towards the center, and after you trade off, you can actually take and get into a very pleasant position here. So you already see you can neutralize the game if you take. If you white wants to trade off your queens, then it's advantageous for you. You can absolutely win. So against the 4 pawns attack, definitely you have an advantage. But here in this position, which is not the 4 pawns, which is the main line, the most popular move is bishop to e2. And here as black, you strike back in the center. This is the whole reason why you gave up the center at the beginning, at the first place, is for you to strike back at that center. And here the most common move for white is to castle. Then here as black, you just bring out your knight. And if white decides to be notorious and kicks out your knight, be happy as black. Do not be sad, do not be hit with depression, because you are going to be winning after the move knight to e7. And here why are you asking me that? Because you're about to get to the next phase of the game, which is attacking the king. Because after a few moves, you're going to actually see that your knights are going to draw back, and you don't think that white is messing around, because here white is going to try to defend first. Then here you already see in this position, you have already created a blockade, which is very important if you play the move knight to c6 and get this d5 played. So that's very important. Okay, let's look at other variations here. What about this other variation here? In this position, after e5, here is another variation, which is called the exchange variation, where your opponent takes. What do you play here as black? Just take back, and after you trade off your queens and she takes, you're just saying my pawn is gone. But oopsie daisy, you're just going to surprise him with knight takes e4. And definitely, as you already see, this is a discovered attack, and if he takes your knight, you just take his knight, and you are equal. White doesn't have any material gain. your bishop is centralized and very powerful. And the next thing, you're just going to be bringing out your bishop, attacking the knight. So definitely that is very advantageous for you. Okay, in this position also is another variation here. After is this variation where your opponent plays knight to f3. This is a very tricky variation which is called the fianchetto variation. So what happens here? Instead of your opponent playing knight to c3, the opponent plays knight to f3, and here bishop to g7 is played, and you just continue with your development by playing g3, c6, and g5. So here in this position, you are just going to crash with d5. No more playing e5, because here your opponent is just trying to reverse fianchetto and castle. So definitely this is a very tricky line. I'll make a specific video on the complete course on how to win in this variation, but here I'm just going to be briefly describing how it actually works. So don't be surprised if your opponent plays knight to f3 after c4 instead of knight to c3. You should know that they're opting for g3, the bishop comes out in the castle. So definitely this is not a very easy variation to attack against, but I'll make sure that I might look for a video to play and also teach you about this opening. Okay, now that you have completed our middle game section here, now I'm going to teach you about this attack. So here, what do you do in the King's Indian defense? You attack. So I'm going to illustrate it by showing you a game played by Hikaru when he completely destroyed his opponent by pushing these pawns in the later moves, just like I taught you. So let's get right to it. In this game, Hikaru showed how deadly the King's Indian can be, and he was playing against Grandmaster Boris' girlfriend. And he started by d4, knight f6, c4, g6, which is what I taught you. And here, knight c3 was played, bishop to g7, e4, g6, just like I taught you. And after knight to f3, here Hikaru castled, just like I taught you. And in this position, Boris' girlfriend decided to play bishop to e2, and after that Hikaru struck back in the center, and here his opponent castled. And here Hikaru played knight to c6, and after his opponent played d5, here Hikaru decided to just retreat his knight to e7. So here in this position, the objective of Hikaru was to push his pawns down the board and mate white somehow. So the whole objective is to go for the head of the king, as you just see in a few moves. So here in this position, knight d2 was played by his opponent, and here Hikaru just played knight to e8, and after b4, because white is going to try and strike at the queen side, so be careful. Here is black. When you play the king in the defense, just remember that your opponent is going to try to strike here. So what do you play? Offense is the best defense in this opening, because Hikaru just plays f5, and his opponent is forced to play c5, trying to strike back, trying to show Hikaru the pressure. But you know what we know Hikaru for? He's one of the best defensive grandmasters in the world. So what does he play? He knows that offense is the best defense. Knight to f3 is now bringing out the knight, and after f3 he creates a blockade, and after that here come the pawns, here come the knight. The knight is coming back into the position. Hikaru is now trying to attack, and both of his knights are in very good squares, and he wants to checkmate his opponent. And oh, the rook is now out, and it comes here to this square, and after that, after d5, because now white has got a queenside avalanche, 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns attacking. All of white's pieces are at the queen side, and white wants to make a pawn breakthrough and have one of these pawns promote at the queen side. And here Hikaru just continues. Hikaru just takes here, trying to slow down the attack, and after his opponent takes, Hikaru just brings the pawn h5, and here after his opponent brings the pawn to a5, here Hikaru plays g4, and after his opponent plays b6, here Hikaru just plays G3. Hikaru doesn't care. Hikaru doesn't care about the pressure that his opponent is putting towards him. Hikaru just wants to win this game. And here in this position, his opponent plays king to h1, and after that, bishop to f8 is played by Hikaru. The rook is about to come into the position, so does the queen. The knights just have to move out, and the queen comes. So we are going to see what happens later. So in this position, g6 is played by Hikaru's opponent, and here Hikaru just plays a takes b6, and after bishop to g1, here in this position, Hikaru just plays knight to h4. And here what does his opponent play? Rook to e1. And in this position, that's when the fun part of the game starts. So you already see, now there are now 3 pawns, connected pawns, and the whole point is to go for the head of the white king. Here the king looks safe, right? But you know who we are playing against? It's freaking Hikaru. Knight takes g2, and already white's position is crumbling, and you're just saying that's a free knight, right? G takes c7, and now white is now playing a switch and soup, attacking the queen. Yet white didn't know what was prepared for him. Hikaru doesn't care. Knight takes e1, giving away a free queen. Literally, this pawn can take a queen and promote. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh, is it? Because this is checkmate. It's literally checkmate, which means that his opponent cannot take the queen, right? So what does his opponent play? Queen takes e1, and here what does Hikaru play? Pawn sacrifice. Hikaru sacrifices the pawn, and after the king takes, Hikaru brings out the rook to g7. That's the reason why it was put to f7, so that it goes to g7 and joins the attack. And now that the rook is activated, here the king of his opponent cannot go here, because literally that will be mate in 3. Because in this position, there's the move bishop to h3 check, bishop to h3 check, and after the king moves forward, there's also queen to d4 check. So which means that in order to make the game longer, his opponent was forced to come back to the corner. And Hikaru was like, I don't care about my queen. I'm bringing out the bishop. All I care about is the head of this king. But you're just wondering, can the pawn take? If the pawn takes and promotes, then there's literal checkmate on g2. So already his opponent is aware and plays the move bishop to f1. And Hikaru is like, don't you want a free queen? Who wants a free queen? He's like giving away a free queen to his opponent. And if his opponent decides to be greedy and takes, it's checkmate again. So Hikaru is actually immortal in this game now because of this immortal queen. This queen cannot die no matter where it's pointed at, because literally checkmate is being threatened. And in this position, knight takes e5 is played, attacking both the queen and protecting this pawn from being taken, or else it would have been fatal for white if he didn't play that. And what does Hikaru play in this position? Definitely Hikaru surprises by bishop takes f1, and it's like, I've taken, and after queen takes here Hikaru plays the move queen takes c3, taking the knight, and now the attack is over. But still, after the rook attacks, planning to promote, Hikaru here in this position just takes back the knight, and here Boris' girlfriend is already losing in this position, and there's nothing that can be done to save his position. And after a few moves, here Boris' girlfriend resigns in this position. Literally, his king is in a jail. And guys, like and subscribe if you want to learn more openings like this, and see you in the next video. And if you're interested in gambits, click on the video showing up on your screen right now.